continue with Britt a little bit. Then I'll tell you what we did next, and then I'll show you, I want to show you Brittany's development. I'll show you Brittany also in the next day or two, but I want to show you her development over about a 5 or 6 month period following this. And then I'll show you what she looked like a year later and so on, and the kind of development of skills that you see. So I want you to kind of show you these kinds of developments of her. I'm continuing to work with you here. Let's watch a little more. That's better. The repertoire she had was motor imitation. The thing I was also trying to see is, could she respond quickly to demands? Do this, do this, do this for easy things, and she could. Many kids with autism, people say, oh, they can't process the information that quickly, they have difficulty understanding what you're saying, and that some of their processing is so slow as to not do it. Well, that may have more to do with sometimes the way we teach than it does some other variables. That is louder, isn't it? Marty's off now. Putting him in. Remember, this is all the same day, kind of teaching her to see instruction as an improving set of conditions. Notice what I have to do in order to get her to respond. I have to take away the reinforcer. This is like, put that down, hey, give me that lollipop, that sort of thing. You're still taking away the reinforcer. How does she tolerate it so well, or why does she tolerate it so well? Because whenever she does and responds quickly, what happens? Reinforcement comes right back. I'm not giving that up. I know it's, which is different than turn off Barney and come over here to work and don't get up till you're an adult. And that sort of idea, which might as well what you might be saying. Instead, it's very quick pace, very few demands at first, build the number of demands. Notice her willingness to echo now is even better. Shorter latency. Now, I asked her mother to come in, and we practiced a little bit. Linda was behind the one way here, and I asked her to practice a little bit of this. Linda had read the Me book and been trying to do things. You hear things like put in and those kinds of SD sort of things. And now back to that. All right, what's the next clip? I worked with Linda every 2 weeks. We would set up goals and objectives. We did an assessment of Brittany on her learning skills as well as behavioral issues. I would then work with her every 2 weeks. I was contracted to a school district in Florida to work with her. So I'd work with her throughout the summer every 2 weeks, setting up programs, changing things, building the programs. None of this is language yet. And why? Because language is hard. And if I would have tried to start teaching her all kinds of talking and vocalization sort of stuff, the value of escape would have gone way up. I would have had a screaming child. We'll talk about what we did next. Can you hear it from that speaker? By the way, the Look at Me stuff was part of Linda's reading of the Me book and stuff. We usually don't run trials on Look at Me. We don't hold cookies in front of our face and say, look at me with an M&M right here. Because children can usually tell when you have the M&M right here in front of your face versus when it's not. And a lot of the eye contact is a natural occurrence or outcome of the teaching procedures, not something we teach. In fact, I've never run an eye contact program where the program was solely designed to teach somebody to look at me. It's a byproduct of manding, when you think about it. People will look at you. If you teach a lot of spontaneous language with requesting, you will get eye contact. Why do you get eye contact in that situation? Because your eyes and your face become a conditioned reinforcer that tell the child whether or not reinforcement is coming. And we don't find a lot of value in running what people typically call eye contact programs. She has no idea what's about. You were saying, look at me, you just kind of hear it repeated there. Yeah, she says it like she's from the South. Red, as though red has two syllables, you know? Only if you're in the South do you say red with two syllables. In any case, I wanted to show you that section, mainly because I wanted you to deal with how language kind of sounds like. She barely had an echoic repertoire. She certainly didn't have any labeling. You could hear the echolalia in there, and barely was it clear. The point I want to make with that is now she's sitting there tolerating the demands very, very nicely. Let me just talk to you about what we did next with Brittany, and then I want to show you what it looked like 7 weeks later, okay? We fill in for about 7 weeks. We asked Linda to take her home and work with her and set up a situation in which Barney as a reinforcer was available, a table was available, and here's all I wanted her to do. Before we started to teach her a lot of language, which was going to be difficult, although we started some request training right away, what we did is this. We'd ask her to come over, Barney would be on, she would sit down, the reinforcer was there. We'd ask her to put in 10 blocks, and then she would get a dose of Barney. 10 blocks, 20 seconds of Barney. 10 blocks, 20 seconds of Barney. Once she did that without any screams, when we turned it off and asked her to put 10, we went to 15 blocks. We made it very, very easy. Then we went to 20 blocks 10 times, then 25 blocks 10 times, then 30 blocks 10 times. If she screamed at all, we would reset the counter, so to speak, and we would go back to another level. Within 2 weeks, we were up to 450 blocks being put in. 450. Now, you're going to ask yourself, now doesn't that seem pretty boring? And why wouldn't she scream at being asked to put 450 blocks in before you get a dose of Barney? In other words, she would make 450 quick responses. They were all easy at first, before she got any Barney. Previously, if you even thought about presenting a puzzle, she'd scream hysterically. Now within 2 weeks, she would put in 400 and was glad to do it. And as soon as she saw the situation get set up for Barney, she would run over and say, now there's some fun. This is what I want to do. There's a large and delicious pellet in the form of Barney and Mom and the teaching material. So she put in 450. Here's a very important point, that boredom is never in the materials or the task. Boredom is in the reinforcement. It is never in the task. The slot machine example is a good one. Put a machine up against this wall and tell people that they're going to stand there all day for the next 12 hours and do this. Just like, this is the topography. Wouldn't you say in about 5 minutes I'll be bored to death? I mean, just go to Atlantic City and watch people kill each other to get the opportunity to do that all day long. What's the only thing different? The schedule of reinforcement. It's the same topography. Put it over there and there's no way I'd be bored to death in 5 minutes. People will knock you over to get to their machine, the one they consider their machine. They will knock you over in order to do it. They will lose their entire life, their family, every penny they own for the opportunity to do this all day long. Now, why is that? You know, the only thing that's different, the schedule of reinforcement delivered for this versus when it's over here, the only thing that makes this boring, if you have to do it a lot, is the schedule of reinforcement for doing so. Almost nothing is boring if it produces strong reinforcement. It all goes back to producing strong reinforcement and not the test. You know how people are constantly shifting programs, saying, oh, you must be bored with that. The material is bored, that's why he's stemming. You need to look to reinforcement, not bored. So people change materials, and sometimes it works. It works to bring better responding, only because those materials are now correlated with a higher density of reinforcement. There's nothing intrinsic in the material that changes it. What changes it is correlation with reinforcement. They go to easy things. Oh, my child's getting boring, he's bored, he's stimming. So I do this, and he starts to respond better. See, he was bored with that sort of thing. No, these responses are correlated with a higher density of reinforcement is the reason why I'm willing to do those. Not the fact that the task previously was boring. Boring is the fact that things aren't correlated with reinforcement. They're not boring just in and of themselves. I think people have to be careful of that. Let me show you a little bit more of Brit. Let me go to, okay, let me stop it right here. This is Brittany 7 weeks later. Okay, let me tell you what happened in the 7 weeks. I've trained her mother. We've talked about verbal behavior. We've talked about a set of skills she needs to learn. She's getting hundreds of trials a day of manding. She's doing a lot of requesting. Her mother is working with her as much as she can, an hour and a half at a table a day, on some very specific skills. The rest of the time in the natural environment, whenever she wants something, using a prompting procedure, using her echo, so she has to talk to get things, but making it very easy. At first, we're just kind of prompting it. It's easy to get. Boy, I like this talking stuff. Every time I talk, I get. When I scream, nothing happens, but when I talk, I get. Contriving conditions all day long. She's hundreds and hundreds of times a day. She's asked, she talks, she gets, she talks, she gets. And then about an hour and a half is set in a table-type situation with very specific teaching procedures based upon Barney. Things I want you to notice here is the spontaneity of her language, the eye contact, and the sophisticated language that's developed in about a 7-week period of time from a girl who could barely echo red or blue and was screaming most of the time when we tried to work with her. See the look got better, Mother? Let me go back and show you that again. Look who's talking first in this video. Look who talked first, not the teacher. Not, what color is this? I want Barney. Looks right up, notice the eye contact. Where did that eye contact come from in 7 weeks? I can tell you, it wasn't an M&M on the forehead. Hundreds of trials a day of, you over here can try, good, what do you want? Want the cup, good. Cup, she says cup, she gets the cup. I run an echo truck, in other words, I give me a cup, she talks, she gets, she talks, she gets. What starts to become a conditioned reinforcer? The face of a person. Why do I like approaching people? Whenever I approach people and they help me to say what I want, I always get it. Well, I like being around these people. Rather than, okay, time to do a bunch of drills, sit down at a table, here's our drill book, and you're going to do it whether you like it or not, and we'll use extension to work through it. It's now, oh, I enjoy this kind of stuff. It's kind of fun to be around people. Whenever I'm around people, my world always gets better. So natural environment teaching with a ton of requesting, and requesting while sitting at the table. Notice 7 weeks later, the prosody, the eye contact, and the spontaneity of the language. Okay. So watch now. She says, I want Barney, nice man. What does the mother do? She turns on Barney. This is actually in the same room that we were in 7 weeks earlier. You're singing. She walks around and says, I love Barney now. Linda said, she says to her, do you love Mama? She says, I love Barney. Watch her eyes. I see. Something's coming. Watch her eyes here. Notice how immediately she talks first. In most discrete child training, the child never talks first. As a matter of fact, talking first is usually discouraged. Go play. Stay here. Matter of fact, it's discouraged. Rarely does the child talk first. What's this? Touch your nose. What's the name of this? How many brothers do you have? Who's always talking first? The teacher. And then we say, we're sitting at a table, the teacher is always talking first, and then we say, how come the child never spontaneously uses what they know? It must be a cognitive processing problem. Well, what it in fact may be is that the opportunities to teach somebody to talk first haven't been contrived sufficiently. Requesting. She has a very strong manding repertoire at this point. Watch the rest of her repertoire.
What color is the paper? Then you. What color is the block? Yellow. What color is the cup? Black. Red.
Yeah. You can see the tapping repertoire of those colors across those objects was all taught in about a 7-week sort of period of time. Receptive language was taught at the same time, but you will notice the emphasis is upon her talking. Expressive language is taught immediately. There is no waiting for her to kind of get it, to kind of be able to touch the cup before she can say cup, touch red before. We teach them at the same time, but there's almost limited emphasis upon, oh, she's got to know it receptively before she knows it expressively. Those are all manding and tact repertoires. Those are all taught immediately and are taught first. Let's see a little prompting here on one. I want to show something else though. I want to show you now actions. This is all in the same session. So not only has she now learned to man spontaneously and talk first, heavy emphasis upon her talking first. Previous to this, she screamed first. Now she's talking first. She's looking at her mother, asking for things 7 weeks after being screaming, tantruming. She had a CAR score of 41 in that from that early video. I mean, kind of what happened to all those characteristics that seem to be, well, I'm not sure those characteristics are the best indicators of her skill level. I think the teaching may be a better indication. She's prompting her here. All those actions were taught in the first 7 weeks, and none of them were taught in isolation. What's the ball doing rolling? What's it doing bouncing? All mixed and varied at the same time. Other things. Let me show you a little bit more of Brit a few weeks later. Now she's saying, give me Barney, please. A lot of manning. You notice the emphasis is always on her talking first. By the way, she says, you want some ice? And she says, yes. Yes is not taught as a request until there are hundreds and hundreds of spontaneous requests. We never teach yes early. If you teach her yes early, guess what you get? Yes. They walk up to you and say, yes! Or if you teach this, I never teach yes as one of the first requests, nor do I teach this as a request early on. Do you want this? People say, oh, it shows communicative intent. Well, I can get communicative intent through talking, and if I teach yes too early, that's what I get all the time. So I'm going to go through that whole sequence. You're hearing yes here after hundreds and hundreds of opportunities to ask for different things. This is about 3 months or so into her teaching. At this point, Brittany still has a few little quirks, unlike anybody in this room. Nobody in this room has any quirks, just, Brit does. conversation and not a drill? Good, that's right. Yeah. Oh, good one. It's all very, very natural. You're going to see more of that in the next one. It's not a drill. Name colors. Notice there's no SD voice. Name colors. You hear, name some colors. Hey, what about some body parts? Then you'll see her say, hey, what's your name? How old are you? It all flows like a conversation and not a set of drills. Yeah, because Linda is sufficiently paired, as well as other people, with the availability of reinforcement for talking. Boy, I like this talking stuff. I ask 1,000 times a day for things and I get something. Boy, I like this talking. Every time I talk and hear my voice, something's good. Let me talk some more. That's a lot of requesting produced this effect. And then very precise teaching as labels and interval. Notice these are all WH sort of questions. Names and colors. Rarely do people think about teaching those very soon. By this point, 3 or 4 months into it, you're still doing a lot of receptive sort of stuff. You're, blowing kisses. You're doing the hammer sort of thing. You're doing this set of drills, when in fact, a suggestion of a different way of looking at it may suggest that an awful lot of skills can be taught more rapidly that are a lot more important than beating the drum. Like asking for things, like answering questions, like labeling things that are important to you. Those kind of things. Maybe a shift in emphasis may in fact, and teaching procedures, curriculum and teaching procedures may be what produces rapid acquisition. Yes, we see some examples of that. Yeah, we do, as a matter of fact. We've got some guys that are near fluent signers, that sign so fast I can't read their signs anymore. Matter of fact, their parents are fluent signers. Yeah, we teach all these same questions. You see how we've taught her to answer questions fairly early on? You'll see that we do that across all the children. Let me let you watch. Hold on one second. I'll come back to you. Let me let you watch what she does and show you an indication that she understands what she's talking about. Watch. Remember, her mother says name some colors. Let me back that up. Let me back that up a little bit so you can see that from the beginning. A mother's saying name some colors. Tell me some colors. Well, you saw that part. Like I said, it's still a little quirky. Nobody here is that way. Watch this. If she didn't understand the concept, if you will, of color, when her mother said, what about this, what would she have said? Absolutely. We have taught it in a way in which understanding the concept, this isn't just some rote sort of, well, when somebody says name some colors, you do kind of list them off. I mean, there's only one way to do that. But the notion that colors is the reflection of the wavelength of light and not the configuration of an item is well known by her. She doesn't confuse, when you hold this up and say, what color? She doesn't say cup. That's the result of our teaching. You've all seen kids when you say, what color? And they say cup. And then you're trying to prompt color. That may be the result of a teaching process and a stimulus-controlled transfer process and not a cup. Oh, he can't seem to get the concept of colors. No, maybe you can't seem to teach him to come under the stimulus control of color instead of the name of the object. It may be a teaching problem. You're much better off saying it's a teaching problem than he just can't seem to get the concept. Because if you're going to rely on him getting the concept, you may be waiting a long time, and when he doesn't get it, guess who gets blamed for it? Well, he couldn't get it. When in fact there may be a set of teaching procedures related to Skinner's analysis of verbal behavior that kind of suggest that what might happen. Take a look at the next little segment.
What's your name?
Four. And she says, there she is out on the playground. I'll probably show this a little bit later with Montel, her favorite little playmate. We do a lot of socialization sort of stuff between those two with a lot of talking. Yeah. Let me ask you to turn in your manual to this page and just stay with me for a minute on this, because I think this is a fairly important. This is a fairly important diagram that I think if you understand the basis of this diagram, then the rest of what I have to say. What page is this on? Oh, okay. All right. Let me go through this diagram with you as an explanation for why Brittany's problem behavior developed, and use this as a format for analyzing other problem behaviors as well, and then I'll talk about self-stimulatory behavior, and we'll show you another video. Okay, escape avoidance paradigm. This is a fairly well-established escape avoidance paradigm that's been well known in the literature since the 60s. It's called a non-Stidman avoidance. It's not a signal. It's called a non-Stidman avoidance escape avoidance paradigm. Panel number 1, escape. Here's what happens. And this is how children with autism come to dislike the teaching environment and start to engage in escape-motivated avoidance sort of behaviors, flopping, screaming, biting, and then people use extinction to work through it because something is ignored in the process. Here's what's ignored. This is a laboratory example. Let me give you a quick example of that. In a laboratory, the animal's kind of walking around the cage. Everything is fine. Okay? Improving set of conditions. A warning stimulus comes on, a buzzer, bzz, comes on, and when that warning stimulus comes on, 10 seconds after it's on, painful shock occurs. Now, this is not the suggested teaching procedure, okay? Painful shock occurs to the animal, okay? So the warning stimulus at first is what? Completely neutral, because it's not correlated with anything any worsening. My world is fine over here, the rat thinks. Warning stimulus comes on. Things still haven't gotten worse, except 10 seconds into the warning stimulus, painful shock occurs to the feet of the rat. Okay? Wow. What happens? Rat runs around the cage, runs over, finds the lever, accidentally slips into it, and turns off. Hits the lever and turns off the shock. Okay? Terminates the pain back to the intratracheal. What do you think the rat learns? As soon as that warning stimulus comes on, what does it suggest? My world's getting worse. It's now a worsening set of conditions. It changes the value of what is a reinforcer. Escape. What do I go running for? I go running for a lever that when I press it turns off the warning stimulus. And as soon as the warning stimulus is turned off, I'm better. What behavior just got strengthened on the part of the rat whenever the warning stimulus comes on? Lever pressing. Right, they run right for the lever. And they press it to turn it off. They avoid it at first and then they escape it. Or they escape it first and then they avoid it. That warning stimulus, you think it stays neutral? No, it starts to become what? An aversive condition. I don't like hearing that warning stimulus, but I know what to do when it comes on. Run over the lever and press it, and things are better. Well, let's take a look at children with autism, and let's get an idea of what may be happening. And by classroom, I mean teaching situation. I don't mean a school classroom. The child with autism is playing. Brittany's over here playing. She's watching Barney. She's having fun over here. She's playing. Well, at first somebody puts a demand on her. Hey, come and sit down over here with me. Well, it's kind of neutral. And maybe somebody guides her over and she's kind of okay. What does she soon find out when she stays there? That, wait a minute, I was over here watching Barney. I came over here, this is the buzzer. The demands, the materials, all become a warning stimulus. That suggests what? I get less fun over here than over there. Wait a minute, I don't like being over here. So what do I start to do? I start to run around and look for a lever to press. What lever do I press? Pinching, kicking, biting, flopping, screaming. That's the lever I begin to press. Why? Because teaching situations always suggest what? It's a warning that things are going to get bad here real soon. And as soon as that warning stimulus comes on, what happens to the value of escape? It goes way up. What happens to all behaviors that have produced them? Problem behaviors evoke, flopping to the floor, screaming, ultimately at least postpones, if not terminates it, and reinforcement occurs. I'm suggesting to you that neutral warning stimulus is in fact a motivational variable that makes it more likely. That's why if you pair teaching with an improving set of conditions, then that is also a warning stimulus. A warning stimulus of what? Fun. Things are getting better. You want that warning stimulus not to be paired with painful shock. And by the way, it's not as though you're punishing a child when they come and sit down. Just the difference between playing and less reinforcement, high density, high quality, low quality reinforcement, is enough to make that a warning stimulus for worsening conditions. So it's not as though you're not using reinforcement, all that. What it may be is that the density, the quality, the magnitude, the response effort, and there's a number of variables that will make this less fun than that. And as a result of this being less fun, it's the same as painful shock, which is a warning stimulus. That's the problem in many cases. That's the problem with Brittany and many children with autism. However, the answer to this problem is to make this a warning stimulus of improving conditions. That's what stimulus pairing does. When you pair yourself with reinforcement, when you have her come over and work with you, what you've done is paired up the teaching situation. Well, wait a minute, this teaching situation is good. Barney's always here. Well, that's fun. Okay, let me come on over there. And the suggestion is, if the child will come to you under that condition, here's the reason why extinction is not the treatment of choice. Extinction can merely make the child stay in the environment in which you're teaching. You can't get rid of the aversiveness. I mean, you can force the rat to stay there, so to speak, but you can't take away the pain. You can force the child to stay there. In other words, over here, you can force the rat not to press the lever and make him tolerate the pain, and ultimately he will give up if the pain isn't that bad. Or bite your finger when you put your hand in a cage to move him, though. I've had that experience a few times. Okay. You'll make him real angry, and you'll make him really upset, but you can get him to tolerate running around the cage if you take the lever out. There's no way to get out of it. Extinction. I will tolerate it and I put up. Now, will I like it? Absolutely not. Will I absolutely hate the sound of that buzzer? I absolutely will, but I won't go running around anymore. I'll tolerate it. You can teach the child through extinction to go ahead and tolerate being taught. Can you ever make me like it? Will I ever approach other people? Will I ever want to be in teaching situations? Absolutely not. But I'll stay here long enough to get through your nonsense and what you're putting me through. Okay. That's why we suggest that the thing that you do is not to choose extinction, because these are, I'll put it in technical terms for just a second, these are not discriminative stimuli for problem behavior. They're establishing operations. The demands are a motivational variable that changes the value of what is a reinforcer, escape. They are not discriminative stimuli. For those of you who have studied this sort of thing, they are not SDs, although they've been analyzed as SDs in the literature. They are actually establishing operations. In other words, extinction only works best with SDs. It doesn't change the values of reinforcers. That's a very important issue. That you want to remove this as a worsening set of conditions, a reflexive establishing operation. You do not want to use extinction alone. You want to use stimulus pairing so that teaching becomes an improving set of conditions. So when that buzzer goes off, the rat thinks, now there's some fun. When that teacher says, hey, come on and work, we've got these materials here, the child says, now there's some fun. Now that's not easy to do. And it's not easy to do, especially if you've been given a drill book and told the kid's got to sit there and like it and use extinction and work through it, if that's the extent of your training. If it hasn't been, well, I've looked at establishing operations, I looked at motivational variables, I understand the concurrent operant literature and all that, it's very easy to say, well, that seems like the best thing to do. There's just a whole other body of literature that suggests we can get outcomes similar to Brittany in many kids if we ignore that way of doing it and we look at other ways of doing it. And I'll show you what the rest of the teaching procedure. Oh, my name is David. Let me watch a little bit of this first. Here's the mom said, we haven't worked with him. This was a video that was sent to me prior to the conference. We haven't worked with him in a few days, so he's actually in a pretty good mood. When I got that video, I said, do I really want to try to change him? We haven't worked with him at all, so he's really much better. Watch, we'll mess all that up. Whoop. You know, if that isn't a telling comment, I don't know what is. Oh, he's fine now that we're not working with him. That's exactly the situation. Well, teaching is a worsening set of, oh, it sure is for David. Watch. Okay, so Chad is now going to work with him. Let's kind of take a look at this. This is the video they sent me. They said, let's see what Chad can do. Let's take a look at Chad. You notice how he bounces away? Chad says, come back. Now there's an important point. We're just going to work on some expressive and receptive letters. Now this is a child who can't ask for juice when he wants some. But we're going to work on give me the A. Should anybody in his life say to him, give me the A, he's going to be ready. But if he wants juice, he will scream instead. But if somebody says, give me the K, he'll be ready for that. Why are they working on this? There's a drill book that says, now you work on expressive and receptive letters. The idea of manding has never been part of their program. He's 7 years old, they've been in a program for 3 years, and couldn't spell the word man, no less know what one was. Spontaneous kind of talking, so to speak, or talking under the control of an establishing operation, motivation, was never an important part of the program. It was give me A, give me K. None of those responses ever occur outside the teaching environment, nor should they, when you think about it. I mean, how often do you see people in a conversation say, give me the A? And you think, oh good, I'm glad they know what I meant. I mean, but don't you ask for things all the time? Yeah, it's rare that you do that. So it just doesn't make much sense. He spins all the time, but so would you, given these teaching procedures. Look at the self-stimulatory, escape-motivated behaviors. This guy is just saying, what the heck? I mean, what's the correlation between doing this and the availability of reinforcement relative to jumping away, going, I mean, this teaching is clearly a worsening set of conditions. It's never good when your student does that, by the way. When you go to teach somebody and they go like this, you know that you haven't set up a set of conditions that's likely to produce a good outcome. Yeah. But nobody's discouraged, because he's the one that's the problem, remember. He's just not responding to the FDs. I'm presenting them. Isn't that what I'm supposed to do? I'll wait. Oh, boy, he says. He said, there's your L. He's more interested in some kind of sore on Chad's face than he is in the L. Hold on. Yeah, give me A. He says, how about this one? Is that A? He says, how about this one? He said, well, let's try this one over here. I mean, prompting procedures, motivational variables, improving set of conditions, all of the issues, functionality of responding, they're all just kind of missing. No. So what do you think of that, Chad? He actually started to get into a little bit of self-injurious behavior. And it's this kind of stuff that ultimately his mother said, we think we got to take care of this. This is getting bad. There he goes. Okay, you can see an awful lot of self-stimulatory behavior that he was engaging in escape motivated. Actually, right here I'm engaging in some self-stimulatory behavior myself. My meds weren't regulated on this day, and I guess it was a little Haldol regulation was fine. can see here, I'm kind of stimming. Actually, what's going on here, other than the Prozac not being regulated, was the fact that David was over here. David was over here, actually, why am I looking there? But he was actually over here. What's that I see there? Okay. He was actually over here, jumping on a trampoline. Okay? I did not want to take him off the trampoline and make him come to me. I wanted David to come to me. So this is the first day I met him. And I decided, okay, let's work with David a little bit. Let's see what we can get. Let me sit down and work with him. And let me see if I can attract him to the teaching environment. I do not want to take him off the trampoline and say, come and sit down and set up a word with me. So I have a little bit of a video going on right down over in here, because his parents said that he really liked video. In fact, they said he liked them so much that they were locked up and had been for the last 6 months. Other than occasionally, they were locked up. Why? Because whenever they took out the video and put it in, they could never stop a video without such a tantrum that it was uncontrollable. They decided we'll not use the video, we'll lock him up, and occasionally we'll just pop one in. Only when he can watch the entire video. Because if you have any opportunity, if you have any idea that you're going to interrupt it, it's going to be a problem. So they would not interrupt it. Okay? So they popped. They said to me, I said, well, what are his reinforcements? Well, he really likes video. He likes a bunch of stuff. I said, videos. Now they said, no. I said, take out the videos. Let's get the videos out. The mother was concerned that she was paying for me to come to her house, and I was going to spend the day watching her child tear up the house because I couldn't give me those videos. Your money, right? Now, I figured, what the heck? I can get this under control. Sitting a little bit more there. I'm watching him jumping on the trampoline, really. I turn off the video, I don't get much of a reaction. It's hard to understand this is not anything terribly important. I'm still waiting for him to come to me. We suggest that you may not be ready to teach until you can attract the child to you through your pairing, and that if you have to drag him over to sit down, that it may in fact not be the best situation. There he is. The man of the hour shows up, comes to me. I said, well, that's interesting, good. I'm pairing myself up with some reinforcement. Let's see what he does. Did you see what I did? I turned off the video. He looked right at me. He said, 5 minutes ago, I was a piece of furniture to be walked over in the process of getting away. Suddenly, he's thinking, now there's somebody to be paid attention to. There's somebody who holds something for me that's valuable. That's the first step in teaching most kids with autism, is hold something that's valuable. And it isn't your release that's valuable. Hold something that's valuable and attract them to you. This is not easy to do, but it's critical. And once you do it, it becomes easier and easier. Hold something that's valuable to him. He looked right at me. He said, now that guy is to be paid attention to in this room. Okay? Mark Sundberg calls it becoming number 2. Number 1 is still the video, but I'm at least correlated with it, and I'm number 2. I'm the number 2 reinforcer in the room. You want to be at least number 2 for a while until you can become number 1. So now I've been paired up with reinforcement. I know the reinforcer is valuable to him. He knows who's delivering it, so to speak. Now watch what happens here. He couldn't get there quick enough. David, come and sit down. Runs right over. Watch him here. Oh, okay. Is that what I have to do? I see how this sort of thing works. If I could not control his movement and the stimulus control and the teacher directed with the reinforcer, I wouldn't be sitting there. If the reinforcer and my instructions and how I teach can't maintain his behavior while I'm teaching, if it has to be, I have to back him into a corner, make sure he can't escape, and I'm sitting knee to knee with him. You notice in these videos we never sit knee to knee, where we're protecting him from moving throughout, and then he's flopping and we're picking up. If we have to do that, we're not ready to do this. What do we need? We need more pairing, and I'm going to show you kids how we do that. We need more pairing. We need to turn the teaching situation into an improving. We let the reinforcer do the work, not our physical demands and extinction. When I said, David, come and sit back down here and move over, he didn't, I'd be saying, let me see how we're going to get this to happen. And it may be a week or two away, it may be a month away, but I'm going to go play, I'm going to go figure out ways to make myself and teaching an improving condition through reinforcement. I'll be doing a lot of manding, and we're going to morph this thing right over to an intensive teaching situation, rather than saying, our job is to get him to sit and attend. I didn't get that video back on most of the time. You hear the scream in there? Yeah, a little scream in there too. Do I have to do that again? Yeah, he's not absolutely thrilled, but he's coming back. How about that? There's a lot of self-centered behaviors. It's always an improving set of conditions. We're not going to grab them. We're not going to force them. We're not going to make them stay there. If the reinforcer and how we arrange our teaching conditions doesn't do it, then we're going to go figure out a way to make it do it rather than use extension blocking requiring to sit there. No, I'll get rid of the verbal stim from teaching a lot of language. David, unfortunately, had very little expressive language at this point. Yeah. No, I wouldn't be dealing with that in David's case. Yeah. Yeah, I would have basically said, well, we're not ready to do this, or I would have said, it's possible that I haven't paired myself up enough with that, and I turned it off for too long a period of time, let me adjust my teaching procedure. Now, I wouldn't have reinforced it. I probably would have ignored it, waited till he calmed down, turned it back on, attracted him, and then figured out a way to fix that. But I wouldn't have forced him to sit down at that point. Yes? Yeah. I would have basically turned it off and made it unavailable. I might have blocked the opportunity to do that, and as soon as he sat back down, I would reinforce it. But I wouldn't give him any opportunities to do it, in the sense that most of the time you can see he's watching the video, there's no reason to really get up, and I'm going to throw stuff in at just the right pace where the motivation for escaping isn't going to be greater than the motivation for responding. You're constantly playing with that. If you ask me to do too much and you turn that off, I'm going for that video. If you do it at the right pace, I'll tolerate that, and I'll even tolerate hours and hours and hours of it. And that's the mix between the two. That's why because that's what they said was going to happen. He was going to tantrum so bad when you turned it off or you're going to go to the video that you would never be able to control the delivery of the reinforcer, and it didn't happen. Why did it happen? Because the way we faded in demand. I'll give you all these teaching procedures in one place. Okay, let me show you a little bit more. Notice I am there kind of spinning on my beard. That is the thing. Good. Now I got him to echo. I knew motor imitation was fairly easy for him. That's why I was doing easy stuff at first. I just want to make him feel what it's like to go fast and get reinforced. Make him feel what it's like. What's it like to do this, do this, do this, and get it? Wow. That's pretty easy. That's not bad. Notice I didn't do a lot of difficult stuff. I did real easy stuff. I made him feel what it's like, so to speak loosely, to go fast. Ogden Lindsay, that's what Ogden Lindsay called it. Making you feel what it's like to go fast and get the reinforcer. Now watch what he does right here. Watch this. Talking up the storm. Whoa. But watch what he does. Picks it right back up. Give him a little prop, get a command for it, get him to ask for it. Now I'm spinning again. We've got example after example of this sort of situation, which ultimately leads to much better outcomes, as you saw with Brett and you'll see with other guys. What's the next one? Look at him. What do I do? Look at him move his fingers. You see the way I move my fingers? You know, I was not even cognizant of that going on at the time, or I would have done some weird finger configuration to see how strong the stimulus control really was. Look at him. He says, okay, it's similar. He actually then goes into picking his lips. He had some really dry lips. Got a little bit of a skin condition. Okay, watch this next one. You see it? Kind of move out. And then it got slide back. He said, wait a minute. Worsening? Improving. Watch this next one. Okay. Next one. This is 12:15 now. That was 11:39. I'd worked through a lot of. I mean, he'd stayed with me the whole time. Many responses. And now I'm getting ready to kind of go on a long run of responses. I think I run out about 70 or 80 responses here. Remember, David's been hard. David's schedule of reinforcement was if they got one response or two responses, they'd have him go play. They got a couple of responses. Now, they're 3 years into this. If they got 5 or 6 responses, they would then say go play and feel like he was making some progress. I'm going to see how long I can extend the variable ratio schedule of reinforcement. In other words, how many responses can I give him before I deliver a reinforcer that breaks the chain of responding? Okay? That's why one of the reasons why you can't take data is because it would interfere with this. Watch this. We got about 80 responses here. Why? My voice is now correlated with come and sit down with what? Improving set of conditions. He just kind of, remember Chad chasing him all over the room? This is only a half hour into the teaching or so. Maybe come sit down, sure. Comes over. By the way, that fold hands procedure procedures are really important. I'll talk about it a little bit. I'll talk about it a little bit later. You notice how he won't take his eyes off me, that the eye contact is just riveted right on me? Remember with Chad? All over the place, looking around, jumping, doing this number. He won't take my eyes off me. He won't take his eyes off me. Why? There's a number of variables there. I'm correlated with what? The availability of reinforcement. He never knows when it's coming. The pace of the instruction. His parents were ready to take him to a weekend of AIT because they thought he had central auditory processing disorder. This guy can shift gears quicker than I can with command. If I prompt properly, fade my prompt, I don't think he's got anything called central auditory processing, CAPD. I think what he's got is a lot of dyspepsia. Is what he's got, and not CAPD. Yeah. Look at how he will not take his eyes off. He just keeps going and going and going. Now, 80% of these responses are mastered. 20% of them are new ones. That's a typical ratio that we run. 80% of the responses are already mastered. 20% are the acquisition ones that we're prompting, fading, and transferring on. He won't take his eyes off me. He just keeps going and going. In a guy who spends most of his time stimming. Why isn't he stimming it? I mean, why is he paying attention? The only thing that changed, now you're going to have to slow the teaching down ultimately to an but right now, this is exactly the way you want to be. The faster, the better. Short intertrial intervals are always better. I'll give you the definition of that in a minute. Are always better than longer intertrial intervals. The data are incontrovertible as far as I'm concerned. People don't do it because they're into these discrete units. What is it? Right. Touch, nose, bang, drum. I mean, it's kind of this unnatural. You notice none of what I'm saying sounds anything like that. It's all touch your nose. What's that? It gives socks. It all sounds exactly the way people. I mean, when's the last time somebody said to you, touch, nose, and you didn't think that a heavy dose of Prozac would be in order? I mean, people don't talk to one another that way. Cookie! I mean, when's the last time you heard somebody say that and you thought, well, that's an interesting way of saying that? People don't talk that way to one another. Why do we talk to children with autism in ways that we don't ever want them to talk? Cookie! But don't ever talk that way. I mean, why would we do it? No idea. Conventional wisdom. That's the way people do it. I heard somebody else do it. I got a drill book, and it must be in there someplace that you talk that way. What do you want? Yeah, that's about 80 responses or so, and then I give them comments and I prompt it. An example of it. Let me show you one last little video of David. This is Chad, just a short time later. I always tell Chad that I'll always show this. Actually, Chad is now a recovered therapist. Okay, he is actually the one who's been recovered. Mainly, yeah. Okay.
So we go to the doll. And the doll. And how much? What about balloons? Do you see the guitar?
Look at David responding to Chad just a few weeks later. Same exact process. 3 years of the other stuff, and here he is a few weeks later once Chad recovered.
Oh, thank you very much. Do that. Can you look at me in the shoe?
You notice the boards in the back there are all the prompt and the cue cards for Chad. We're doing PATS, MANS, intraverbals, receptive, RFFC, all very fast-paced stuff. You can see how fast Chad is going now. Chad, in only 6 to 8 weeks, learned how to teach that way. Very big change. He'd been teaching that the previous way for 3 years. Notice how natural the voice is. Give me A. You know, that's sort of.
Not so simple.
Thank you very much. What is it? Sure. What is it? Give me 5. Let's do this. Not even pieces of furniture.
Yeah, we're starting to now. David had almost no verbal behavior. Tell me some furniture. Now, you notice how we're mixing and varying everything? Hey, tell me some furniture. Hey, what's this? Those all come together over
Very good. Did you see the guitar? The guitar? Yeah.
Notice he said, you see the guitar, waited a second or two, David said, yeah, where's the guitar? And now he prompted it.
Let me practice.
You notice he didn't prompt right away on that one. Why didn't he? Because David was scanning and looking. The idea of prompting within 2 seconds doesn't mean he's got to find it within 2 seconds. He's got to start the response of looking for it within 2 seconds. Hey, what's your name? Or somebody says, what's your phone number? You wouldn't prompt her in that. Basically, you've got 20 cards out and you say, hey, find the ball. And the person is going like this. Nobody's going to find it in 2 seconds. You prompt within 2 seconds if the response doesn't start. Not you have to complete the response. So when people say, what about when the answers get real long? Like, cite the preamble. We're going there sometime soon, right? Cite the preamble of the Constitution. I mean, it doesn't have to be done in 2 seconds. Like that FedEx commercial. You know, only that guy could do it. It isn't that. Does the response start within 2 seconds?
Yeah, what about the guitar? Yeah.
Let me tell you about that hand folding procedure. You notice it always goes back here. Here's what happens many times as you start to bring, we teach that. You saw I was teaching it immediately. We taught it immediately. Every time you respond, the hand comes back. If you don't, you've all seen what happens. Either the hands are every place, or they're all over those cards and moving them, all over the skin. And what's the therapist doing? Holding the kid's hands down, trying to present things, and you're constantly, what we do is we get the response to occur. It's this, it's this. Every time you respond, it's back here, it's back here, it's back here, it's back here. And this is only a few weeks into it. It's back here. You respond, it comes right back. You respond, it comes right back. Rather than all hands all over the place. You notice the speed of the teaching. You notice the time between he says, what's that? And he says something else. David responds in something else. He never lets David go for longer than 3 seconds without responding, without prompting, as you'll see.
Did you see an animal that was like, sorry, there's a big gun. Do you see something that you type on? Very good.
Computer. What are we doing with, you'll notice there's an awful lot of sign language in here. David is a vocal guy, but we're using sign language to bring about better vocalizations. We taught him an awful lot of sign. Despite the fact that he was a vocal guy, you'll also notice there's no picture exchange communication system anymore. This is only about 8 weeks after we met him, which suggested what about the need for a picture exchange communication system? And David was already vocal.
Computer. As a computer, do you see something that flies? What flies? Airplane.
Something that flies. The actual sign for something that flies actually prompts the airplane response. He actually uses the sign language to prompt his own vocalization.
How is the airplane very good, isn't it? David, tell me these symbols. Very good. Tell me the things you plan on fire. Very good. Do you see the popcorn? What's popcorn? What is that? What are these? Good. What is that? Yeah, is that? Do you see an animal that says chirp chirp? Did you see it? Do you see the bird? There's the bird. Do you see something that looks? Can you get a TV? Thank you very much. Good job. What can you talk on? What do you talk on? David, what do you talk on from? What can you talk on is like,
You do it. That's sort of like.
Very nice. Show me the video. Good. 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 Tell me something that rains. Can you see the problem?
Can you imagine what it would be like if you didn't go fast with David? Well, you saw what it was like. You can see how the speed interferes with the self-stimulatory behavior and keeps him responding to the teacher with lots of prompting, fading of prompts, and so on. If you didn't go fast, and in many kids with self-stimulatory behaviors, if those ITIs are not short, they're off in self-stim territory almost immediately. Especially in kids with self-stimulatory behaviors, the speed of presentation. You notice he started to stim a little bit, and what did Chad do? Prompted the correct response, differentially reinforced, and went right back to the next one.
Thank you very much. Do you see something he's keeping it one bit? Sure. Where's the sharks? And the shark is? Yeah, where's this, huh? Look at that. Yeah, is that? Look at that. We used to call him. Where's the one?
Yeah, I said I want TV, and that was the, and then demanded for it and got it at the end. Yeah. Oh yeah, he would be. It's only 8 weeks into it. Eventually, you will be able to slow it down. Once you have stimulus control by a teacher, and you're not going to get it without going fast. Once you have stimulus control, you can begin to slow it down to a natural. However, there's almost no advantage, no disadvantage to going fast. In other words, somebody says, "What's your name?" And you say, "Ben." Boy, that was an awful quick answer. Nobody ever sees a disadvantage to being quick. As a matter of fact, one of the most important dimensions of human behavior is not only accuracy, it is speed. It is all. Those of you who went to lunch today, you would not measure the ability of your waiter or waitress in terms of doing their job based solely on, did I get what I ordered? Topography. Did I get what I ordered and got it fast? You will almost always evaluate everybody's behavior by correctness and speed. There's almost never a time when doing the same thing without speed as a component is of great value, and especially verbal behavior. So, go ahead. Why is that? Why would there need to be? Because it's more like what you might experience at school. That might be a reason to do it. That might be a reason. Yeah, but not at first. But absolutely. And what we start to do is then slow down the pace to a more natural speaker-listener repertoire. At first, we get it so fast that he can't be wrong and he wants to stay with us. And then we ultimately can fade the dimension of IPIs to a more natural occurring sort of speed. Yeah. But unfortunately, at first, if you didn't do that, you might never get it. There was well, I'll talk about it later. But yes, your point is well taken on that. At some point, it has to slow down to that, and it will. The purpose of going fast is a manipulation of the establishing operation. The faster you go, the greater the motivation to stay with you versus self-stimulatory behavior or escape. Because the density of reinforcement. I know kids that'll say, hey, go faster. Come on, let's keep going here. Don't slow this thing down. I always get more goodies when I go fast than when I go slow.